señores, muy buenos días. Los invitamos a tomar asiento. Vamos a iniciar. Solicitamos su atención al importante mensaje de seguridad del Teatro Metropolitano. Este evento cuenta con servicio de primeros auxilios y ambulancia.
Services with paramedics and emergency services, which are located in the areas of the stage, halls, and parking spaces. The theater staff is formally dressed and uses name tags to be easily identified. In the event of emergency, please keep in mind that this theater has equipment for automatic sprinklers. It has fire extinguishers on the stage, evacuation routes, emergency exits in the front and the back of the room. Please identify those closest to you. Please follow the instructions of the logistics and aiding body personnel to properly evacuate the event. Please listen to the other instructions given to you from the stage. Maintain your belongings at reach. Never run or yell. Don't return for any reason. Generate trust and control over the people that are with you so you can become a leader of the group that's with you. Only return when the authorities ask you to or indicate this to you. This message is for your security and issued by the Administrative Department of Disaster Risk Management, the GRID, of the Mayor's Office of Medellín. Gentlemen, ministers, vice ministers, ambassadors, directors of national order, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the UN Public Service Forum Day and Award Ceremony hosted by the Government of Colombia through the Administrative Department of Public Service, the National Department of Planning, and the Ministry of ITCs. Likewise, we'd like to thank the support of the UN Development Program in Colombia, PNUD, Marca País, and local institutions, the Mayor's Office of Medellín, Ruta N, and the Medellín Convention Bureau. We'd also like to greet those that are following us by streaming and social networks on hashtag UNPSA 2015. Our Twitter accounts at Ministerio_TIC, at Gobierno en Línea, at DFP_Colombia, Una de Cristal, at ONU_S, at UNPAN, and at UNDESA. This global event on public service provides a platform to study, examine, and learn about innovative practices to face the new challenges by the public service. Every year, the forum is focused on the critical sphere of public management and explores organically its different dimensions and components. The core of this topic is innovating in the delivery of public services to implement the post-2015 development agenda. This year, there are 5 main focuses. First, enhancement of the capabilities for the professionalism, integrity, ethics, and responsibility in public services in Latin America. E-governance as a driver for institutional integration towards sustainable development, innovations to provide public service with perspectives of gender for the post-2015 development agenda, management models for public service, and e-governance for innovation and sustainable development. The city of Medellín receives today 1,000 attendees from 100 countries from all over the world, responsible of decision-making professionals, innovators, representatives of international and regional organizations, academic institutions, nonprofit organizations, and the private sector. The attendees of this forum are privileged because they can benefit from the innovative practices from the winners of the prestigious Public Service Awards, since today is the Public Service Day of the UN. The award ceremony will be held June 26th at this venue in the Metropolitan Theater of Medellín. So, Let's begin by greeting those at the main table on the stage. Dr. Martha Ordoñez, President Council for Women's Equity. Dr. David Luna, Honorable Minister of ITC of the Republic of Colombia. The representative of the UN, Mr. Sir John Merrick Jerusa. He is the Chief of Public Service and Development Management, the Departments of Economic and Social Affairs of the UN. Dr. Liliana Caballero, Director of the Public Service Administrative Department of Colombia. Dr. Manuel Fernando Castro, Director in charge of the National Department of Planning of Colombia. Dr. Aníbal Gaviria, Mayor of Medellín. Brigadier General William René Salamanca, Director of Protection of the National Police. Major General Jose Angel Mendoza, who's the commander of the Aburrá Valley Police. So let's begin this forum listening to the national anthem of the Republic of Colombia. Please rise.
She's running, yeah. She's running.
Please take your seats again. So let's begin by listening to the words of Dr. Aníbal Gaviria, Mayor of Medellín of the Republic of Colombia. The Minister of ITC of the Republic of Colombia, David Luna Sanchez, the Counselor of the President for Women's Equity, Martha Ordoñez Vera, Mr. President of the Public Services of the UN, John Harry Cossotti, Mrs. Director of the Administrative Office of Public Service, Liliana Caballero Duran, the Director in charge of the National Planning Department, Manuel Fernando Castro, the Commander of the Region 6 of Police, and in charge of the Aburrá Valley, Jose Angel Mendoza, the Director of Protection and Special Forces Police, William René Salamanca Ramirez, the Vice Minister of ITCs, Maria Isabel Mejia, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, vice ministers, and representatives of public services in Colombia and elsewhere. Honorable congressmen, deputies, and council members, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the public and private sectors, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends of the media. Firstly, I'd like to give a very strong welcome to each one of the public servants of Colombia and from other countries that visit us today in Medellín. For Medellín, it's an enormous enormous relevance to be the first Latin American country to serve as the host of this very important forum promoted by the UN. I'd like to once again say thanks for letting us host and for choosing Medellín for this event, especially the national government, particularly our President Juan Manuel Santos. And also I'd like to thank especially the prior ITC minister, Diego Molano, and the actual minister, my friend, David Luna. Likewise, I'd like to thank the Administrative Department of Public Service, Dr. Liliana Caballero, who not only in this aspect, but in many others, has been a great beacon for institutional development of our city and of the public service of Medellín. In addition, I'd like to thank the National Department of Planning, headed by its acting director, Manuel Castro. All of them somehow have served as a single voice, so that in this case and many others, Medellín can be the host of international events such as those that we have today. However, saying thank you, I'd also like to thank the United Nations. The UN has been a great partner of Medellín in this transformation process, the metamorphosis the city has undergone, and has opened the doors of the city that are transcendental for hosting international events. Last year, we had one of the largest events in the history of our country, the World Urban Forum 7, to prepare Habitat 3. And satisfactorily, we can say that we did meet the expectations of you and Habitat with that and the world, holding the best wolf of the world, not said by me, but by the director of the UN, of UN Habitat, John Claus, on the same stage. In addition, we have in the second half of this year, 2015, we'll be hosting the Global Assembly of Tourism, which will gather here in Plaza Mayor the representatives, top representatives of nations in terms of tourism and promoting cities and countries. And today, we are holding this event, welcoming you all so that we can continue showing through these events and through all of you to the world the transformation, the metamorphosis of Medellín. This event, for us, really fits in perfectly like a glove with several of the pivotal purposes of our government. One, framed precisely in our slogan, or the concept that you'll be working on in these following 3 days, relates to innovation. Medellín is indeed a city committed to urban development innovations known worldwide, with social innovations and with institutional innovations. Institutional innovations which I hope more or less in an hour, we'll have a panel with the minister and that we'll be able to share with all of you. So I'd like to repeat that this event fits perfectly with the government strategy, but also Medellín has focused on 6 clusters for its economic development, and one of them is the ICTs. And that's another field that you'll work on so that you can turn ICTs into effective governance tools. But there's another aspect which I think is interesting and fits like a glove with the strategy of our government for this event. This UN Public Service Forum is to think about that post-2015 agenda. We believe, and I've been able to say it in different stages, internationally, and especially by those hosted by the UN, that post-2015 agenda, which is explicitly explained, cities have more and more responsibilities. So I believe that here we join all 3 things: innovation, ITCs, and cities are fundamental players for public services to make it even more accessible for the citizens in the 2015 post-development agenda. So to end, I hope that this setting is proper so that Medellín can share with you some of its experiences and practices which are worth showing, but particularly we want to listen to the experiences and the public servants that are here with us from other countries and to learn from them as well. Great lessons and conclusions to adjust our institutions and to provide an increasingly better service to our citizens. Lastly, I would like to celebrate with all of you, and I don't want to fall short here, to acknowledge before all of the citizens that are here with us that Medellín 15, 20 years ago would never have a chance of hosting you and having an event like this. 15 or 20 years ago, Medellín unfortunately had the highest violence rate of the world, the highest murder rate, and it lived the darkest era. The attack, drug trafficking, of terrorism and violence was terrible for us. But Medellín, that type of Medellín, is way behind. Today, we moved on upwards, and now we are not among the 50 most dangerous cities of the world. And really, we want to leave behind us that page of pain and violence. That's why my last message for all of you is that there's hope for many other cities and societies that are living difficult times now, which relate to a metamorphosis like the one Medellín has. And secondly, I'd like to welcome you all, and I'm thankful for having you. And I'd like to ask you all that after these 3 or 4 days you stay here, you can turn into ambassadors of our new Medellín. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for coming to Medellín. You're always welcome to come. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now let's welcome Dr. Manuel Fernando Castro, the Acting Director of the National Department of Planning of the Republic of Colombia. Mr. Mayor of the City of Medellín, Aníbal Gaviria Correa, the Minister of ITC, Dr. David Luna Sanchez, Ms. Marta Ordoñez, the Presidential Counselor for Women's Equity of the National Government, Ms. Liliana Caballero, Director of the Administrative Department of Public Service, Mr. John Mary Caballero, Director of Public Administration for Social Affairs of the UN, the Commander of the Police, General Manuel Angel Mendoza, ministers, vice ministers, directors, authorities, and public servants of the national government and the countries visiting us. On behalf of the National Department of Planning of Colombia and its director, Dr. Simón Gaviria Muñoz, who unfortunately couldn't make it here because he's abroad, I'd like to thank firstly our hosts, the City of Medellín and its authorities, and to reiterate also to all of the attendees are welcome to this forum, which invites today about 80 countries worldwide to reflect on the importance of innovation in public service and the role of public servants as agents of change and development in society. In Colombia, the National Plan of Development 2014-2018, All for a New Country, which was recently enacted by the President of the Republic, deems that good governance is one of its main pillars to enhance the development and modernization of the state. This includes, of course, looking at the institutional architecture and the technical capabilities and human resources of the Republic, and also the technological infrastructure that we have, so that the state can consolidate the peace and equitable conditions of the country. This is why the national government has committed to enhance and boost public policies and the promotion of services for citizens under transparency, efficiency, and integrity among public servants, and using the most advanced technologies and proven methodologies so that public entities and public servants can provide excellent services for every citizen of the country. Despite the efforts made and the huge achievements, the challenge in Colombia is still big because, according to the measurements made, the citizens' perception on the quality and accessibility to the proceedings and government-related proceedings is still limited. According to international measurements made, Colombia is set at about 60 points of the perception on the quality of proceedings and services. In addition, about 76% of the citizens still have low trust or little trust in public servants. And this discloses that there's a lot to do to consolidate the citizen service culture. These aspects, which can be deemed as limitations for the development plan, we consider are great opportunities instead to improve the services provided by the state. Keeping this in mind and to meet the goals that we have set forth in the development plan, the government has established different tools. One is the National Program of Citizen Services, which seeks to improve the work made by public entities and to stop people having to, which can stop incurring in so many costs when it comes to making all of their everyday activities and proceedings before the government. Why? We understand that the relationship between the state and the citizens is important and validates democracy. This means that if public servants and government-owned entities do not facilitate proceedings, the citizens will not be able to fulfill all of their rights. So that's the focus of the National Development Plan. And in this particular setting, we have established 5 pillars to improve the service for citizens. One, we want to perfect the public services, national public services, in terms of efficiency for citizens. We want to build guides for the proper management of services. Third, we'd like to assist and implement policies among territorial entities and municipal and department offices. We also want to improve the service channels. And lastly, we want to qualify the profile and skills of public servants. So all of these topics, of course, we have been working with different national entities that are responsible of putting into practice the policies related to civil services. So with the Ministry of ITCs, with the Administrative Department of Public Service, with the Higher School of Public Service, DANE, and other entities under the guidelines which have been established by the President of Colombia. Added to the above, and in line with the territorial structure of the National Development Plan, we have set forth a strategy to enhance the capabilities of the public servants in municipalities and departments. Why? The services provided to citizens also shows significant gaps between the most advanced and the most municipalities that are way behind. And this is why we have to reinforce and provide the tools so we can provide a service that's unique, minimum, to every citizen in Colombia. This program to enhance is a powerful tool for the citizens through which we seek to develop the capabilities interpreting the reality of the regions. So with this, we can improve and modernize the planning processes and the assignment of resources and the assessments and follow-ups we make of all of the programs, projects, and every service provided to citizens, because the bottom line is the perspective of any good governance is to have citizens satisfied with everything that's provided by the state. When it comes to tangible tools that we're working on, are, for instance, integrating the supply of services that have most impact in Colombia. through what we call the Integrated Services Centers, the National Frontier Centers, and the Binational Centers. Also, the National Trade Shows of Services, which integrate all of the proceedings. We're talking about 128 proceedings that citizens use through the government, and we are improving with 22 different national entities. This is why we are engaged to initiatives with our natural allies to shed light and share the experiences that we have, national and international, regarding innovation services for citizens. And we're sure that during these days we can identify the best tools that can be used transnationally to be able to find possible collaboration efforts within Colombia and abroad to provide the best services to citizens with e-governance, and to be able to improve public service models. So with this, we can enable the collaboration that we need to enhance the agenda of the post-2015 development with which Colombia is committed. Thank you all, and welcome to Colombia. Thank you, Mr. Castro. Now let's listen to the words of Dr. David Luna, the Minister of ITC of the Republic of Colombia. Mr. Mayor of the City of Medellín, Aníbal Gaviria, the Director of Capacity of Public Administration of the UN, John Mary Kabuskia, Mrs. Counselor President for Women's Equity, Marta Ordoñez, the Director of the Administrative Department of Public Service of Colombia, Liliana Caballero Duran, the Acting Director of the National Department of Planning, Manuel Fernando Castro, the Commander of Region 6 of the National Police of Colombia, Jose Angel Mendoza, the Director of Protection of Special Services of the National Police of Colombia, Brigadier General William René Salamanca, the Vice Minister of ITCs, Marisabel Mejia, the Director of E-Governance of Colombia, Joana Pimiento, Mr. Hassan, Minister of ITCs of the Republic of Afghanistan, Mr. Gibson, the Minister of Labor, Public Service, and National Service of the Man Community of Bahamas, Mr. Boti, Minister of Public Service, Labor, and Social Services of the Republic of Central Africa, Mr. Castillo, Minister of Security of the Public Service of Ecuador, Mr. McKinnon, Minister of Civil Services of Ethiopia, Mrs. Bam, Minister of Urban Development, Housing, and Construction of Ethiopia, Mr. Nishat, Minister of ITCs and of Ethiopia, Mr. Mikahi, Minister of Rural Development and Public Health of India, Mr. Kaliti, Mrs. Kalitra, Minister of Gender, Childhood, and Social Well-being of Malawi, Mr. Ocampos, Minister of ITCs of Paraguay, Mr. Dutoine, Minister of Women, Community, and Social Development of Samoa, Mr. Pasi, Minister of Civil Service of the Republic of Senegal, Mrs. Mulani, Minister of Evolution and Planning of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Duhani, Vice Minister of Public Service of Indonesia, Mr. Karimon, Director of the Agency of Public Service and Innovation of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Ramos, General Director of the Public Service and Employment of Portugal, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, honorable congresspeople, deputies, and council members, those members of the Ministry of the Republic of Colombia, of different departments and municipalities of Colombia, of course, ladies and gentlemen, members of international delegations, members of the Ministry of ITC of Colombia, and of the representatives of the private and public sectors, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Colombia. We'd like to give you a fraternal hello from the President of the Republic, Juan Manuel Santos. We're very proud, as Mayor Gaviria said, to receive you here in Medellín, one of the most innovative cities of the world, a core for the development of Colombia, an example of overcoming problems, but especially of pride. This week, we are proud to be the host of this important event, which for the first time is held in Latin America. And this is why, not only for the organization of the UN, but all of its members, on behalf of the Republic of Colombia, would like to say our most sincere thanks for this trust you have given us. We're excited to get to know firsthand the initiatives which delegates of hundreds of countries will share with us in workshops focused to grow as public servants. Innovating in public service requires not only transforming channels of communications, but also a new mindset. A culture prepared to find new solutions to problems which have always existed. This is why today, more than ever, we should focus on new strategies that set the citizen in the middle of the issue. Citizens are the core of the equation. Citizens are the ones which everybody in public service and in other areas of the nation should meet. In that sense, we have a huge challenge before us that should use technological tools to open participation channels. All of these challenges cannot have a good ending if we are not innovative public servants. We are called to change states because we're part of them, and only our task will make them grow and evolve hand in hand with the needs. There was a Colombian martyr that said that was killed during the 80s when the mayor of Medellín told you that that Medellín had a difficult setting. Public service is the art of serving and not an activity to serve itself. And that's why every day we have higher and larger challenges ahead. We'll have the chance to explain them to you, how we're living them and how we visualize them in Colombia. Hoping, of course, not only to be beacons, but to learn from the experiences that today, tomorrow, and Friday we can get to know from each one of you. In Colombia, we're working every day to efficiently innovate in this sense, to promote initiatives with the government, to turn public policies of the state, programs which have recognized worldwide as Vive Digital, which has its online strategy governance. So we want to make efforts of the state so citizens and leaders can find in technology a tool that's key to build ties, both in two ways, to build respect, but especially to build collectively. So may this be the opportunity to welcome you to a new Colombia in which we are preparing to face a different future. Forums like this allow us to enhance our commitment, our institutional commitment, so we can become more inclusive with equitable conditions and open to the participation of our citizens. We're sure that this path is much more fruitful, hand in hand with peace. President Juan Manuel Santos has made enormous efforts to overcome nothing more, nothing less than 50 years of violence. And we need our friend countries, our brother countries, and all of the Colombian citizens to join him, because we're sure that using technology and an efficient public service, we can reach this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Lastly, let's listen to the words of Dr. Marta Ordoñez, Presidential Council for Women's Equity of the Republic of Colombia. Good morning to everyone. Minister of ITC of the Republic of Colombia, David Luna Sanchez, Mr. Mayor of Medellín, Aníbal Gaviria Correa, Mr. Director of Public Services Center of UN, John Mary Cajusa, the Director of the Administrative Department of Public Service of Colombia, Liliana Caballero Duran, the Director in charge of the National Department of Planning, Manuel Fernando Castro, Mr. Director of Protection and Special Service of the National Police, Brigadier General William Salamanca Ramirez, the Commander of the Metropolitan Police of the Aburrá Valley, General Jose Angel Mendoza, the Vice Minister of ITC's Maria Isabel Mejia, honorable congressmen, deputies, council members, ladies and gentlemen of the different ministries of Colombia and international delegations, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the public and private sectors, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media. For me, as the Presidential Council for Women's Equity, it's an honor to be here in this forum that's so important for the Colombian public administration. I would like to say hello to you on behalf of President Santos. To talk about innovation in public management forces us to think on the dimension of gender as a factor of innovation. As you know, figures still show a situation that requires special attention. During the year 2012, while 74.5% of men were part of the labor market, this share from women only reached 54.1%. Besides having a shorter share in the labor market, unemployment rates among women reaches 13.7%, almost twice of that of men, which is that of 7.8%. If we keep in mind the educational level, although women with higher education in average have studied 2 more years than men, their occupation rate in 2011 was 6.3 points lower to that recorded by men. This exchange of experiences will allow us to identify common grounds to establish interinstitutional synergies addressed to complement and improve public services in accordance with the realities and needs of Colombian women, recognizing diversity and the context in which they live. Your participation, public servants is fundamental for our purpose. You are assuming an important challenge by promoting within your organizations a transformation that will close the gaps between men and women and to improve the quality of life focused on gender. Lastly, our major recognition is given to the Ministry of ITC, the Administrative Department of Public Service, with the support of the office in Colombia of the UN Development Program, the Presidential Counseling for Equitable Conditions for Women, says that it's an honor and a privilege to work with entities like this to guarantee the rights of all Colombian women. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ordoñez. Let's continue with the words of Dr. Liliana Caballero. Good morning to you all. I am going to leave out the formal greetings, but of course, I would like to say hello to the ministries and the top dignitaries with us today, as well as the diplomatic bodies and each of the members of the UN, which made it possible to hold this event. Also, I'd like to say hello to the representatives of the national government of the Republic of Colombia and our host, the mayor, Aníbal Gaviria, the members of the academia, the civil society, the private sector, and especially the public servants of Colombia and of the world that are here with us. Welcome to you all. For me, I'm full of pride to open the forum, the UN Public Service Forum, here in our beautiful city of Medellín. I'd like to thank the hospitality and warmth known by everyone of the city and of its mayor, Aníbal Gaviria. Medellín, as we've said, is a city in which innovation and public service are pioneered not only in Colombia but in Latin America. Its creativity to face public problems has made it deserve many awards. I'd like to highlight that last year the city was awarded as the most innovative city. The government of Colombia is honored to host the most important event for public servants worldwide. I have no doubt that this setting that we share today is the most relevant and the best to meet this purpose, and therefore I would like to thank the UN for considering Colombia to host this version. This setting that begins today is simply an excuse to exchange experiences and to reflect on the role that we have as public servants to build our country's future. In Colombia, President Santos has asked my department that I head to lead the public policies for public employment, to enhance the capability and trust of our state using its core, which are public servants. The purpose of this government is to reach peace, consolidate equitable conditions, and to provide quality education. If we do not have committed public servants, it's impossible for the state to provide quality services to its citizens. Build a strong state that advances towards peace and equitable conditions. When we consider the importance of public service in societies, it's everyone to enhance the ties between entities and citizens. We, public servants, flesh and blood, manage the trust that citizens should have in public institutions. And this is something we should never lose sight of. Many times, the only ties there are between citizens and the state is only at a window or through an automatic tape recorder. If the ties for the citizens are not satisfactory, the public institutions reduce dramatically. So these small contacts, which for many can be intranscendental, are in charge of building the ties of transparency and trust in the state. So it's our responsibility as public servants to always be prepared to serve citizens with excellence, no matter what our role is in the state. The idea is having a better public service is an issue that is strategic for all of the countries members of the UN for the post-2015 development agenda, which includes handling conflicts, education, growth, creating employment, health care, against malnutrition and inequitable conditions, and policies of environmental sustainability gives priority to governance. Achieving this last purpose depends of each and every public servant, because we are aware that a good public management service allows us to guarantee the satisfaction of all of the needs that are demanded of the state. Sustainability and the attitude of providing the best service is a pillar for good governance in the near future, and this is why this is addressed by different perspectives throughout this UN Public Service Forum, which will not only have workshops of elite public servants, but also for capability of development of tools to deepen on things that are of interest of all of us. We've mentioned the core of this forum, and each of these pillars provides a perspective to enhance the state's role, especially focusing on innovation as a driver of a new state in the world. The workshops of Wednesday and Thursdays will have experts in different areas of these 5 cores chosen to drive our public servants using different innovative and participative methodologies. We will close on Friday with the Day of Public Service of the UN, which matches the Day of Public Servants in Colombia, and the award ceremony of the contributions to have a more efficient and transparent public service in the world. We'll also have the ministers and high mandatories of different states that visit us that will discuss the different contributions given by this forum to reach the post-2015 agenda. The topics we'll be addressing this week have all to do with public service. We're used to think that the perfect setting to innovate has to do with the private sector, because they take decisions and open new markets. But the state, because of its nature, has had the fallacy of being always rigid and being non-innovative. However, I think that the role of a state should be to have ongoing innovation and to be able to provide the best fundamental services. It's not only to provide services, but really to increase the well-being of citizens. The public sector is a perfect setting to invent new ways to build bridges among human beings. In fact, I dare to say that this is our task. Many of the large researches which have led to advances for humankind, like the internet, for instance, have been the result of the public sector. So innovation is and should be part of public management, and therefore should be inherent to us as public servants worldwide, because we should propose new ways of providing our services, always making use of everything and all of the public resources, and that way we can boost public service. That's why we're here, for public service, to interact with all the public servants here, with the academia, the private sector, and the civil society, and to get to know the best practices so that we can improve our work with new tools for change. From the government of Colombia, and particularly from MINTIC, public service and national planning, we're committed to innovation as a paradigm to change the services provided to citizens without forgetting to build over what's already built. We always work on establishing public policies for citizens, and that's how we built our national development plan. As our minister has said, everything we do is simplifying everything, using online services to agilize our internal procedures, and what's more importantly, to save time and resources for citizens. We work every day to build a public administration close to citizens through choosing the best and most integral type of public services, and also to be accountable for what they do. Likewise, we have used the context of Colombia being part of the OCPE to share the best practices with the other countries that are members. The institutional efforts of our public state is a big recommendation that we make for the Good Governance Committee of the OCDE. It's fundamental so that we can have an optimal institutional setting where we have the best governance of the country. Committed to this, the Colombian government has focused on designing strategies and policies to have an effective public service which enables transparency, participation, and citizen service, and especially that will make our public servants stronger. Our development plan for this 4-year term is focusing on good governance to reach the pillars that support this: peace, equity, and education. With this strategy, we want to reach the purposes of the state, and that's why we have hundreds of people here trying to make the best of things. The Colombian government has set forth 3 main challenges for good governance: to enhance public servants and their task, to consolidate a modern and effective and transparent public service for citizens, which will indeed go hand in hand with the 3rd challenge, which is to build the trust in the state. And this goes hand in hand with institutional innovation and professionalizing public employment. So all the features shared by the governments here should be a stamp of quality to show that we provide the best services to society. Good public servants should understand that the state consolidates every day with its actions. So I'd like to invite you to make the best use of this forum to reflect on the importance of public servants and the core responsibility of the academia, the private sector, and citizens to build good governance and state efficiency. The different items that we'll be addressing: e-governance, management models, sustainable development, gender, and others, cannot be a reality if we do not have a public service that's focused mainly on satisfying the citizen. So it's essential for us in Colombia to be able to hold this forum, public service here at home, so that we can have a better country that we all seek. To have a transparent and efficient state is the only way to consolidate the peace that we all need. We'd like to thank the international community for being with Colombia in this effort to build peace from institutionality. Public servants that are exemplary are the best path for the peace that we're building, and the best tool to have the good governance that the country needs in its post-conflict. Lastly, I'd like to thank the hard work made to guarantee the quality of this event, the team of the UN, and in Colombia, the Ministry of ITC, my team of public service, and those of the Mayor's Office of Medellín. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you have a very productive week, and I hope that this experience in Medellín is full of great lessons for all of you and contributes so that we can have the peace that all Colombians yearn for. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Dr. Liliana Caballero, Director of the Administrative Department of Public Service of the Republic of Colombia. We also thank the interventions of the members of the main table, and we seek that they occupy their space within the auditorium.
Ya va a hablar, el padre lo pone.
Yo cierro la apertura, si quieres conectarse. Pero no dejamos.
Continuamos con las palabras de...
We'll continue with the opening remarks of Sir John Marie Carusa, Head of the Subdivision of Capacity of Public Service, Division of Public Service, and Vision of Development for the UN of the Organization of the United Nations.
Saludamos a quienes nos...
We greet everyone who's following us on social media under the hashtag UNPSA 2015, our Twitter accounts at Ministerio_TIC, at DAFP_Colombia, at UNE de Cristal, and ONU_ES, at UNPAN, and at UNDESA. We continue with the opening remarks of Mr. Sir John Marie Carusa, Head of the Subdivision of Capacity of the Public Service, Division of Public Administration and Development Management, Department of Economic Affairs and Social Affairs of the UN of the United Nations.
Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to the 2015 United Nations Public Service Forum Day and Awards Ceremony. As you have already noted, this is the first time it is being held in this region, and I would therefore like to thank the government of the Republic of Colombia for hosting the event and for being a very effective partner in promoting good governance and excellence in public administration. I would also like, in the same breath, to thank the mayor of the city of Medellín and his team for the excellent welcome they have accorded all of us and the arrangements that have made this day possible. We believe that many of the challenges facing governments across the globe can be addressed by fostering creativity and innovation in public service. Indeed, for this to happen, we need to break with the practice of doing business as usual and rethink the way public services are organized. In the next few days, we will discuss approaches to making public administration more effective, to improve the delivery of public services and satisfying the citizen. The 2015 Public Service Forum is centered on the topic of innovative public service delivery to implement the post-2015 development agenda. And it is intended to serve as a bridge for serving knowledge parity by fostering collaboration and encouraging information sharing. All the activities of this week for the United Nations are for honoring those public servants who have understood the importance of creativity and contributed to the improvement of quality and responsiveness of public services to the needs of the citizen. As we engage in the discussions and the celebrations we are going to have at the end of this event, let us pledge renewed commitment to global development by recognizing all the public servants who commit themselves sometimes under difficult circumstances to serving the public. For this, I wish to congratulate all the 22 public organizations from 18 countries which have been recognized by the United Nations Public Service Awards. And I also wish to encourage those men and women, the public servants, who have shown a strong commitment to public service to continue on their path of creativity and excellence in public services for the benefit of all. Indeed, such exemplary public servants give the real meaning of what the public service means. It actually means serving the public. Their efforts have resulted in greater effectiveness, efficiency, gender responsiveness, and inclusion in the delivery of public services in their communities. Recognition of these achievements will act as a catalyst for improving public service delivery throughout the world by further inspiring those who are already doing good work and motivating others to innovate and replicate current best practices. I'm sure and certain that the initiative that we will speak about and honor will serve as a source of hope for the rest of the global community. Looking ahead, there are important questions that we must ask ourselves. Among them, how can these innovations and practices be adopted to different parts of the world to achieve greater effectiveness and efficiency in governance and public administration? How can such successes be scaled up to improve performance? How can the lessons learned be disseminated and applied more broadly? But most importantly, how can we promote creativity and innovation in the public service? I know that over a long period of time, there have been a belief that the public service is not innovative, that public servants are lazy and wasteful, that they are not even responsive to the citizen. For the last 13 years, the United Nations has witnessed exemplary creativity and innovations through the process of the Public Service Awards, and we know that this image is not correct. We know that all over the world, small countries, big countries, poor countries, rich countries, there are public servants who are working very hard to improve the well-being of their citizens. And these are the public servants that we are honoring during this week. We should not, therefore, sustain the bad image that was created by a misconception of what public service is. We reiterate our commitment to supporting public administration capacity development, which is making a positive difference for millions of people and ensuring its outreach so that it spreads around the world. The United Nations, through its various organs, will continue to build upon past work and support member states to ensure that we move towards a more equitable and just world where everyone can lead a life of dignity. In order to create such an environment, the United Nations General Assembly is to ratify the new Sustainable Development Goals, which will set the world's development agenda for the next 15 years. The Sustainable Development Goals are based on one universal and transformative agenda for sustainable development, underpinned by rights and with people and the planet at the center. As we move on to discuss innovative public service delivery, let me suggest a few areas we should be mindful of. First, successfully achieving the Sustainable Development Goals will entail thinking and improving service delivery by all public sector organizations at the national and the local level. Second, efficient public administration, good governance, capacity building, and innovations should aim at improving the functionality, the reach and impact of both public service delivery mechanisms and outcomes. Third, public sector leaders will need to focus on putting in place strong government structures and institutions with a dedicated, capable, and cohesive public service in order to ensure effective governance. Fourth, innovations in this field, including the use of information and communications technology, will have to be deployed to overcome many challenges. Fifth, we need to understand that in this era where we talk of governance, not only of public administration, public service is not only a matter of public servants. There is going to be a strong need to promote collaborative governance, where public sector, civil society, and government come together to find ways of improving how to serve the public. We need to find ways of focusing on collaborative governance to have what I would call a collective impact in ameliorating the well-being of the people. Finally, as we look forward to global leaders presenting their vision of sustainable development in September this year, we may remind ourselves today that without effective public administration capacity building at all levels, including local level, the hopes of achieving any sustainable development will not be possible. I hope that at the end of this forum, we can not only show to the world innovative approaches to improving delivery of public services in the form of our award-winning initiatives, but also use this opportunity to exchange knowledge, ideas, and thoughts, and learn from each other. I hope the discussions that will take place will be constructive and thought-provoking, and I look forward to participating in the exchange of thoughts and ideas on how to improve service delivery, which will take us forward in our collective goal of sustainable development. I thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, señor Cayusa. Antes de dar inicio a la segunda...
Before we begin with the second part of our day, we would like to inform our participants on some logistic matters. The Wi-Fi network of the event is UNPSA. The user and password are the number that appear below the barcode on your ID. We'll present the map of the event. Today we are located in the Metropolitan Theater, where we will realize our session on the 26th of June. The workshops will be carrying place in the Exhibition Center Plaza Mayor, which is located in front of the theater, and where the government of Colombia will invite you to your lunch on the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th of June. Anyone who prefers a second option will find restaurants in Plaza Mayor's complex. Our support personnel will always be present to guide you. If you need any indications, look for one of our representatives who has an ID with the logo of the event. Second, tomorrow you will receive a passport that we have designed to realize different activities within this forum. This passport will allow us to provide an award to the participant who visits all of the stands of the participants of the awards on public service, as well as the best stand. You will find a QR code through which you can download the handbook of this year's forum. Also, this document, which will be sent by email, will allow you to consult additional information. Don't forget to consult the email that you've been provided to receive updates on the agenda and other matters. We also remind you that during the breaks, you can approach the coffee shop at the exit of the theater. Thank you for your attention. We will begin with today's agenda. We invite Honorable Minister of Information Technologies, Dr. David Luna. His intervention is titled The DNA of the Public Servant. Once again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the President of Colombia and, of course, of Colombia and Medellín for your presence in this very important forum, to the UN for having given us the opportunity, and, of course, to each and every one of the delegations for having made the decision of accompanying us in something that is very meaningful to us, public service. I have dedicated practically half of my life to public service. I began at the age of 18, and without rest, I have been in different scenarios of public service. For this reason, I allow myself today to tell you how we are imagining the DNA of the modern public servant, of a public servant that has an enormous responsibility of serving citizens and who has a responsibility of resolving problems of these citizens. I believe that the world has worked very arduously to achieve a significant change in the objectives of the millennium. Those millennium goals that with so much effort have been built and additionally have been put into practice, and the results are positive. Despite this, you all know that the post-2015 agenda presents enormous challenges to achieve no more and no less than technology sometimes fails, that we may be able to put an end to everything that has to do with poverty, which is perhaps one of our largest karmas in our nations. Of course, we must make a significant effort to improve the conditions and the quality of life of each and every one of our citizens. The post-2015 agenda also highlights the need to improve the quality of education and increase it in a positive manner, providing technology to our citizens, and something that is very important, which is quality to our students. And we have to talk about a significant effort that is mentioned within the agenda and which refers to the need, as our High Councilwoman was mentioning, which has to do with gender equity, which is a fundamental aspect for the transformation of a society. In that sense, it is also a very valuable challenge and an important challenge that we have to have in mind, which is the creation of sustainability and the reduction of inequality, which still exists today in many countries throughout the world, and which, for this reason, that post-2015 agenda makes reference to the understanding, the comprehension, and the construction, the balance between the urban and rural aspects. In order to achieve a balance, the United Nations states this: more than 70% of human beings every day are more and more present within cities, and so this balance is vital and essential to achieve balance, a balance which has been brought to attention so many times in declarations and in statements of Pope Francisco. And we also need to mention everything that has to do with the protection of our environment and natural resources, and something as important as the structuring of the balance that has to present itself within that process. In that sense, we have an additional point in which, of course, Colombia works very strongly, because one way or another it has been a generator of violence that has affected hundreds of thousands of Colombians and other hundreds of thousands of citizens, which for one reason or another have had to experience it and suffer it. We have a responsibility, an enormous responsibility, to achieve peace within Colombia and throughout the world. And that responsibility requires all actors, beginning with the international community. All of these subjects, which I have mentioned so far, are subjects that, one way or another, become essential and vital in order to achieve something that is very important, which is the process of collective construction. Governments have an enormous responsibility to achieve progress on these changes. And when we talk about the government, who are we talking about? Who comprises these governments? Who make part of these governments? The citizens that elect, but the public servants, which are its essence, which one way or another, piece by piece, construct successes and build something that is very valuable, which is a collective effort. And so it is very important to mention what Colombia has done. How has it worked? How has it been able to build as a reference that we consider is important from an international perspective. How have we worked on transparency? How have we worked on participation? And how have we worked on collaboration? A very important tripod, which will be essential and vital, no more and no less than to generate everything that has to do with an improved service for our citizens, an improved quality that will impact it positively. And so we can begin with transparency. It is merely the access to information, to make possible for citizens to access information. Not long ago, just last year, in 2014, Congress of the Republic passed a law that had an approval from civil society, an active civil society, which was organized, which had clarity on the need for information to be accessed by everyone. In that sense, it was established within the regulatory frame of Colombia that it is essential, in the first place, to have access, to provide access to that information, for that information to be transparent, for it to be truthful, for it to be effective. In second place, something that is also very important, everything that makes reference to the functions of public servants, everything that makes reference to the possibility of understanding and comprehending the functioning of the Colombian state, and something very valuable, which is the accompaniment of control authorities, in this case of national procurement, which has a responsibility to make this valuable and important. This open data structure, which represents the possibility of everyone having equal conditions. And in that sense, our chambers of commerce, our government, both national, departmental, and municipal, and additionally many actors that make part of the exercise and the effort of the private sector, are making a much greater effort for information to be made public, for information to be constant. In the second place, the accountability, which for us becomes an essential piece for the transformation of human beings and societies. National government has been working strongly to achieve absolute transparency, not just in the hiring or contracting, but also in the publication of data, of information. Our ministry and our National Department of Planning have today special spaces for financial data to be, or economic data to be provided efficiently. We have tools that are essential and fundamental for the private sector to, within that data, to make decisions. And this is valuable because in the past, what was most important and what was most questioned was confidential information, was how it was impossible to access that information. And Colombia makes more and more progress on this exercise, on this issue. And so all contracting processes are greater and are more open, not just through a figure which is called Colombia Compra Eficiente, which addresses the needs of competing through the internet, where public service personnel has access to decision-making information, and where we are provided the possibility of understanding the variables that at the moment of decision-making is necessary, and also on the accountability of publicly elected officials such as mayors, governors, councilmen, and deputies. In Medellín and in Antioquia, a decision was made to provide accountability in a parallel manner, all of the municipalities, so that citizens could be able to know what is going on, what is taking place, and what work is being carried out in each of the municipalities. In that sense, there's a very significant effort taking place. The second, which I was mentioning before, in terms of transparency in open data, the possibility of that open data, which is vital and essential. Today, with this possibility, there are already hundreds of tools demonstrating to the citizens what options are best or what actions might be more important to them. I have 3 examples. One in particular, in terms of medicine, with all of that data from hospitals, the health ministry, and other entities of the health sector, there are tools that allow the citizen to make decisions with respect to his or her health. Because this decision of data being provided to everyone has been made, there are other valuable tools such as Bogotá como vamos, or Medellín como vamos, and Cartagena como vamos, or how are we doing, important cities of Colombia, which today are measured by the private sector with respect to the data that they produce themselves. Our mayor, Aníbal Gaviria, shows the citizens of his city how security figures are progressing, mobility figures, and also the struggle against poverty, and how it's progressing without fear of it being some way, in any way or another, criticized or applauded, because that is how it is established within the activities of open data in our country. We also would like to talk about a tool that has provided many good results. Crystal Urn is a tool that allows us today to have a government that is totally interactive and is also intermodal in terms of communication. Communication is no longer one way. So by the government, inform the citizen what I want to inform, but I also am not available to respond to the citizen on what he wants to learn about. And this dynamic has changed thanks to technologies, thanks to new possibilities. And today, Crystal Urn, through television, through radio, through social networks, through personal communication between public servants and citizens, allows the possibility of generating interaction, an interaction which today reaches about 5.5 million citizens, with which an interaction has been created. They might be asking for a simple solution, and they also might be questioning and demanding. And they have been able to demonstrate that their voice is just as important as their vote. And I repeat this statement. In Colombia, the government understands that the voice of the citizen is just as important as their vote. Why this reflection? Because many times public servants or politicians only focus on votes, but they also have to think about the voice of the citizen. And in that sense, we as politicians and public servants cannot be fearful of understanding that the voice of the citizen requires an effective and truthful and efficient response. We also carry out great efforts with respect to direct contact. The president in the region, Juan Manuel Santos, has had as flagship the possibility of confronting different issues of our regions at the regions themselves. So it's easy to make decisions from the capital with basing himself on documents and just based on what he hears, but the most difficult decisions are the ones that are taken on site, on location, where the problems are present, where the difficulties are present. And that's why the cabinet of this government, hand in hand with municipal governments, travel to the different regions to be able to act in a fundamental manner and respond to the difficulties of the citizens. And everything that makes reference to participation isn't just left in our discourse, in our speeches. Colombia today has more than the luxury, the possibility of building public policy hand in hand with the citizens I already mentioned a possibility, the law of transparency and information. I want to mention another case which affects our ITC ministry, our Vive Digital plan, which is a plan that was able to, or allowed us to connect from 200 to over 1,000 municipalities through optic fiber, which increased the connectivity from 2 million to 10 million. It is a plan that has allowed us to install in the entire national territory connectivity for the poorest communities, and additionally with advisory services for application, for the construction and growth, and also for comprehension. This Vive Digital plan wasn't invented by the president. It wasn't invented by my predecessor, whom I would like to give recognition to for the work that he carried out with such great effort. No, it was built by the ministry with the citizens in a process of interaction which was very valuable and was able to create public policy hand in hand with the citizen. The same is happening with sports, which is like our Ministry of Sports. It is an entity that has its space in the Council of Ministries and carries out great effort to construct its public policy for sports toward the future with the citizens in hand. And they were able to accomplish many things with our processes that reduced the amount of proceedings that had to take place for our citizens. The construction of public policies with citizens shouldn't be a possibility, it should be an obligation. And in that sense, we are very proud to have 3 successful cases right now. We have also had failures, and we have to mention this calmly, and also we have to understand that it's possible to overcome these failures, because many times we don't reach agreements, and many times we can't reach any consensus. Sometimes there are other interests in mind, and we have been addressing and generating a process of collective construction, which is very valuable and very important. Additionally, we want to mention collaboration, another essential leg of that tripod that I was mentioning, which was made of transparency, participation, and collaboration. And collaboration, one way or another, has to be built hand in hand with the regions. Where are the problems of the citizens, in which each one of the citizens are participating? I'm going to mention an example. A couple of years ago, our country faced an economic difficulty, to which was added some climactic difficulties and political difficulties. And all of this came, one way or another, together in something which was known as a great agricultural protest. This government has been emphatic in always respecting not just protests, but differences. And more than dialogue, we had to resolve the problem that we were experiencing. How to resolve it? Many thought that it could be resolved just with resources. Others wanted to resolve it only with policy. And a few others thought that it was important to resolve it with technology. And technology became an essential part of that collaboration which we're mentioning today. A great effort was made, which was called the Agroton, which is nothing more than the understanding of what were the problems of Colombian the agriculture sector, and how through technology we could help to resolve them. And in that sense, they were resolved with tools. Just to have an example, on Thursday in Cartagena, we will complete the launch of one of those tools constructed by the private sector, specifically a center of innovation which is named Pesca con Redes Móviles. It was the possibility of giving Colombian fishermen a set of tools that were valuable in a technological aspect, which are vital and essential. And so we necessarily have to work from the government with our people, with our servants. And for this reason, it is essential, it is fundamental to understand the DNA of the public servant of the future, one who is always willing and available to address public service as the art of serving and not the opportunity of serving oneself. So first, transparency. By nature, it shouldn't be an added value for a public servant to be honest. It should be a minimum requirement for him to be dedicated to transparency. Second, co-creation. Understand that we're adding, not subtracting. And third, the use of technology, to the understanding of innovation and how it can help citizens. And of course, these tools have been clearly established within our countries in a very valuable manner. For example, in terms of transparency with open data, in terms of co-creation with centers of innovation and e-governance, in terms of the use of tools in all of the aspects of science and technology. And so I might say that with this subject, we are, one way or another, achieving the following. We have enormous challenges on the post-2015 agenda. We're going to overcome poverty. We're going to generate greater equity. We're going to improve the quality of education. We're going to generate balance between rural and urban aspects, and we're going to protect the environment. And for this, we need two fundamental factors. The first is that clearly a city that is willing to collaborate, a city that is willing to work together. We need public servants, in second place, that have a DNA that is not just of love, of service, but most importantly, the capacity to innovate and to use technology. Thank you.
Agradecemos al honorable Ministro de Tecnologías de la Información y
Okay, so we'd like to thank the Minister of ITC, Dr. David Luna, to give way to the intervention of Dr. Aníbal Gaviria on the subject of modernization in the municipality of Medellín. Additionally, we greet everyone who's following us through streaming on social networks under the hashtag UNPSA 2015, our Twitter accounts at Ministerio_TIC, at Gobierno en Línea, at DAFP_Colombia, at Urna de Cristal, at ONU_ES, at UNPAN, at UNDESA, and at ONU Mujeres Colombia. Okay, continuing with the agenda.
del señor Alcalde.
So let's listen to the words of the Mayor of Medellín, Aníbal Gaviria, talking about modernization in the municipality of Medellín. Okay. Good morning again. I'd like to verify with the technician if you'll help me with the slides. So, first of all, I'd like to show you a quick or a brief summary on the modernization phase that Medellín has experienced in the past 4 years with our government, divided into two stages, one in the year 2012 and the other 2015. A modernization in which we've been working hand in hand with different entities of the national government and somehow with international advisors, and which we want to share with you in this event as one of the good practices of Medellín, to somehow exchange ideas with you about this. Let's move on. The first aspect that I would like to share with you is the management model of our city administration. We have a model that's called the Circle of Life. In the middle of the circle, we have the two main challenges of our city and society. One is to have a more equitable society and more respectful of life. So these are not the biggest challenges of Medellin, but they're also of Colombia and Latin America. Unfortunately, in Latin America, we have cities and regions with the highest indexes or rates of violence, but also with the largest indexes of inequalities. So that's why our model is focused on these two things: decreasing violence to make a society that's more equitable, that respects life more, but also to achieve a city that's more equal. And this is done by working or building 5 cities, meaning 5 areas of the government. The society is sustainable, schools, safe, employment, and healthy. Building these 5 cities in those 5 areas, our purpose is to have an impact in the middle on inequitable conditions and violence. And with this, and this is the model that we use with 7 principles: 1, transparency, nonviolence, resilience, participation, solidarity, identity, and innovation. These 7 principles should go hand in hand with the 5 areas of the government seeking the 2 main objectives. This is the process of modernization of the city in both phases. Phase 1 in 2012 and Phase 2 in 2015. And in 2013 and 2014, we see different elements that led us to adjust. In 2015, the first decisions taken back in 2012 to make changes. Ladies and gentlemen, before sharing with you the elements of our modernization, I'd like to share with you as well several of the achievements and results which, using this modernization model and improving the institutional aspects of the city, these are achievements made of the different indicators in the past 3 or 4 years. First, we are first in integrated comprehensive performance according to the National Planning Department of all the cities of Colombia. We're at 92.4 over 100, and we have the highest score of the Mayor's Office of Medellin throughout the history of this measurement. Second, growth, not only of expenses and investments, but also the proportional growth of investments over operation expenses, historical. Third, we have the highest level of satisfaction among citizens in Colombia. In the measurement made from 2009 to 2014, we moved from 56% of the citizen satisfaction to 88.29%. And this measurement of citizen satisfaction is made using an independent entity of all of the centers of service provided by the Mayor's Office of Medellin. The city of Medellin shows different international scores made by the international rating firms. And in 2014, Medellin has kept its scores at the highest rates. And still, Moody's improved one of the rating from BAA3 to BA2. So all of the ratings which Medellin was ratified but there was even one aspect that was improved by Moody's. And this is an aspect which we're proud of sharing with our international visitors and our colleagues and Colombians, nationals. And it's that last year, because of the institutional harassment, we made Medellín was the first city of Latin America that placed bonds on a 30-year term. That means an enormous trust of national and international investors in our city. Trust which is reflecting the improvements made by the city and reinforcing the institutional efforts made by the city. Let's look at some of the aspects in which the city has advanced in its modernization process. One, which has been a policy and a strategy of the national government that we have engaged to enthusiastically, is called decent work, decent job. I don't know how this problem somehow can be multiplied or replicated in other countries that are visiting us, but one of the aspects that happens in Colombia and in Medellín is that there is an increase of contracts of employment versus full-time employment. We've advanced to make a conversion of many of these part-time employment contracts to full-time. The second aspect of the modernization is working and teleworking. And this also, not only with assistance of the national government, the Ministry of Employment, of Labor, and of ITCs, and the Administrative Department of Public Service, we're all working towards teleworking, which improves the conditions of public servants. And unlike what in many cases is believed in Medellín, this has improved our indicators of productivity. In addition, there's an impact on two other paramount aspects of the city: mobility, decreasing the need of mobility of many citizens, and contamination because of mobility. So here we're having a favorable impact on other paramount aspects for the well-being, not only of public servants, but of the entire city. We've set out a goal of 5% of public servants of the mayor's office of Medellín to be devoted to teleworking for next year, and in the next 4 years to move on to 10%. If we can do this, not only in the private sector and other mayors' office, but by other institutions in Medellín and in the country, we'll have an enormous impact on mobility, contamination, and quality of public service. The modernization in Medellín has also had a focus, and it's to improve work environments. Unfortunately, there's a paradigm, and it's that work environments of public servants are lower quality than those where private servants work. We have to give more dignity to public servants, giving them excellent quality type of work environments. Within the first phase of modernization that we made in 2012, we advanced on the aspects I've mentioned. First, we made a change of the structure of the city's municipality, meaning proudly I can tell you that Medellín is a leader in this structural change. We created vice mayorships, which are an intermediate phase between the mayor and the secretaries. Why did we create vice mayorships? I think that as in other local institutional areas, governments grow. As cities grow, as there are more needs. So what we did is, okay, let's stop and look at this and let's try to create a formula that makes our government much more efficient. In Medellín, we created the vice mayorships, 6 with 5 regional and 1 territorial, to engage the work made by the different secretaries in different areas of the government. Here we go back to the management model that I showed you initially, and that model of the 5 cities is exactly tied to the 5 missions of the 5 major ships created. We also, with teleworking, improving the work settings, flexible time job to work, to facilitate for many citizens or public servants to choose what's the best time for them to work, so that they can have their education or their family affairs, and also to have a better service for the citizens with extended times. And also the professionalism and efficient work of our public servants is of importance. Moving on to phase 2 of the city's modernization. The first one in 2012 with what I just mentioned, and the second phase is in the year 2015. About a month ago, we completed the enactment of the decrees that adjust phase 1. And this second phase had 2 pillars. 1, the territorial arrangement of the land, or POT. I don't know if we can discuss this, but in many cities and countries that visit us, this may be relevant. And the POT is the roadmap to show the territorial development and occupation of the city in the next 15 years. That roadmap is discussed with the city's council. We have a lot of citizens participating with them, as Minister Luna mentioned to you, and it's approved, and it turns into a beacon for the next 2 or 3 terms of the mayor's office of Medellín. So that's why the POT, as you can see on the slide, should reflect what the city is doing, its structure, so that the city has the tools to develop it in the next 12 to 15 years. Secondly, the declaration of the public conglomerate of the mayor's office of Medellín. At the mayor's office, we have what's called the core of the public administration of our office. But throughout the years, this office has been creating mixed businesses, decentralized institutions, and public-private alliances, and public-public alliances that create other tools. Today, the mayor's office has about not only this core, but also 50 additional institutions that depend directly or indirectly of our office, and that participate 100% or have a majority participation in the mayor's office. But with this declaration, what we've wanted to do now and in the future is that these 50 institutions can engage to work towards the same objectives. Things that are simple, for instance, that these 50 institutions can have the same code of ethics, that they can participate and abide to the same principles and values, that they focus towards the same objectives, for instance, to struggle for more equitable conditions and towards more coexistence and peace. That's the second pillar that we want to reflect on the second phase of the city's modernization. And here you can see some specific items on how varying the city's structure is given through this second phase. First, we created the Secretary of Human Management and Citizen Service. What do we want to do with this? We want to tie the basic areas focused on human beings, focus on the humans, public servants, and in the private sector. So through this secretary, we want to train, motivate, remunerate properly public servants, so in turn, public servants, which are the main asset of any institution, can improve their work towards citizens. Second, the creation or amendment of what was created in 2012, creating what's called the Planning and Territorial Management Vice Mayors. So remember, we have 5 new vice majorships, and this one of Planning and Territorial Management is the one that not only makes a planning on the execution of the POT for 15 years ahead, but it monitors the POT and the work done by the 5 majorships. With regards to mobility, what's core in the second phase was the creation of what's called the Urban Mobility Management. With the POT, we created we reverted the pyramid of mobility. Before, the private vehicle was on the top of the pyramid, but we have inverted the pyramid. First is the bicycle and the pedestrian, and at the bottom is private vehicles. So that's why we create the urban mobility management to give the importance needed to bicycles, riding, and pedestrians. And along with the creation of the conglomerate, we created the Secretary of Supplies and Services. And the purpose is to capture all the synergies, the economies of scale, and engagements of all the procurement made, not only by the city's administration, but of the other 50 entities that I told you about. So we've made calculation that the synergies which we can create in the next 5 years for the city's administration have to do with about 5 million pesos. We're talking about $2 million in the first year to more than 100 million pesos, which is about $45 million in year 5. So these synergies will help us will help us with the procurement of all the processes and all of the supplies needed by the different entities which are engaged to the city and have to do with economies of scale to create the best and most efficient ties with suppliers. I'd just like to mention with this slide, because I don't want to create the idea that we're creating more red tape, or that in Medellín we're doing it because we're creating a lot of public expense. No, really, this modernization, as I showed you here, is done not only not growing but decreasing our size, because we move from 86 people in the mayor's office to 85. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take this opportunity, Mr. Minister, Ms. Director, international visitors, to show you in 2 or 3 minutes not only a specific vision of public management, but I'd like to show you some graphs on the city's metamorphosis in the past 10 or 15 years, which I hope give you an idea of the true transformation that you can see while you tour the city. I want you to see how Medellín has moved from being a city hurt badly by violence towards a city for life, the one we want to build through this public management model, and which we are currently building. First, look at the metro cable of Medellín, the before and after, one of our urban development innovations. These gondolas which are usually used for skiing and for sports, but Medellín had the creativity to turn it into mass transportation, to reach the highest points of our steep valley, and also to the poorest areas of the city. Look at the electrical staircases. Again, we see them in airports, we see these escalators in all shopping centers. However, Medellín turned them into a public transportation system in a way for access of the poorest citizens to the high areas on the steep mountains of Medellín. But it's not only the gondola and the escalators, but also these two have been a way how the state has reached these areas where the state was not before. The UVAs, one of the latest innovations of Medellín, water reservoirs and tanks of EPM were for 40 years fenced, surrounded by fences. But now this space is given to the citizens living next to them, and they've turned into social clubs, you can call it that way, where citizens have access to recreation, sports, culture, citizens' participation. And UVAs are used for urban renovation, but also for recycling, urban recycling. The tanks, which were only used for tanks, are still used as such, but they have turned into the heart of different poor neighborhoods. Parques del Rio, river parks on the river banks. Rivers are the heart of a city, of course, but we have forgotten them. We have polluted them. We want to recover the river of Medellín. And now we're undergoing this project, 16 kilometers on the riverbank that will turn not only a linear park, but also is a definite step towards the biological recovery of the river. This project has a summary that gives you this, and it's to return the life of the river and the rivers back to the citizens. The tramway, Ayacucho tramway. Medellín had a tramway. Then the tramway was stopped, and then now we have private vehicles, and now again we have the tramway. So by September this year, we'll be having the first tramway of pneumatic tires in Latin America, especially for the population that lives high on the steep hills. And this is great for steep hills up to 12%, 12 degrees, which is our case. Nurseries. The last mayor built 9. We are building 10 more, and we are with the Buen Comienzo helping the kids. We're serving the first childhood as a priority of public service. The circumvalar area of Medellín. As you can see in the following days, Medellín is in a valley, and the river runs over 1,500 meters above sea level, but the mountains are 2,000 to 3,000 meters above sea level. So on the steep hills, we've had painful tragedies. For instance, we had one in Villatina with more than 500 dead. And there we're building this project. It's a space with a pedestrian area, another area for bicycling. We have eco orchids, environmental halls to turn a place that was a tragedy into a garden for life. And this hand in hand with the circunvalar is the Moravia hillside. It was the landfill of Medellín. For 40 years, all of the garbage of the city was dumped there. But it was not only a landfill, but it was where more than 2,500 families lived. But now we've turned this into a garden. And many of the families that live there today live in dignified homes close by, and they no longer live on the landfill, but now they live off recycling the garbage. And now, for instance, they are planting a garden next to it. These images showing you the transformation of Medellín. Mr. Minister, I'm sorry, I'm taking time off your talk. But all of this that I've shown you, in my opinion, would just be pictures if they didn't have a true impact on the realities of the city, poverty and violence. And here you can see how extreme poverty has dropped in the last 12 years in Medellín, from 8 to 2.8%, more than 60%. The same poverty from 6.7 to 14.7. And last year, we had the highest rate of employment in the last 18 years. And lastly, life. Recovering the value of life in Medellín. Today, we have the lowest homicide rate of the last 35 years of the city, and that has been made possible through these transformations, innovations, and urban developments, social innovations, but especially because of the citizens' participation and good governance of the public servants, of the mayor's office of Medellín, and its conglomerates committed to the transformation of the city. Thank you, and welcome again.
We'd like to thank Dr. Aníbal Gaviria for his intervention. We remind members of the main table that reporters and journalists await you in the press room in the Blue Pavilion of Plaza Mayor for a conference. We also invite representatives of the media to participate in said press conference. Our support personnel will indicate the way. We would like to invite you to a short break, and we will continue with the agenda in 15 minutes. We thank you for your punctuality.